Social Security is broke, and we soon won't have Tim Walz to kick around anymore. It's 5 and 10 from Skywatch TV. 5 things you need to know in about 10 minutes for Tuesday, January 6th, 2026. I'm Derek Gilbert. Item number 5 today, Venezuela. Gunfire overnight, over the capital city, or in the capital city, over the presidential palace. This reported by news agencies that verified video sent to them. Anti-aircraft fire over the capital. A Venezuelan ministry later said it was police shooting at drones that were flying without permission, and no confrontation occurred. Meanwhile, Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores had their first court appearance in New York City yesterday. They pled not guilty to the drug and weapons charges filed against them, chosen for the time being not to fight their detention, which is interesting. As a head of state, you would think there'd be some sort of diplomatic immunity that they could argue, but they've not done that at this point. There have been reports that this was part of a negotiated exit with the United States, but given that other reports have indicated they were offered sweeter deals, like living out their years in retirement in luxury in Qatar, I don't know why they would choose this over that. Anyway, Maduro's attorney, Barry Pollock, said he plans to file motions challenging the indictment and calling it a military abduction. Attorneys for Maduro and his wife did not make a pitch for their release in court on Monday, but they'll make a formal bail application later on. The next hearing coming up March 17th. This is the beginning of what's going to be a very long legal process. Item number 4 today, Tim Walz. Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota has suspended his campaign for re-election. He was running for a third term as governor of Minnesota, and he has formally ended his campaign. And I think we all know why. That's right, Somali daycare centers. A young man named Nick Shirley, who went around doing guerrilla journalism with an iPhone, basically, knocking on doors and exposing the racket that are daycare centers, that is daycare centers, in Minnesota, racking up millions of dollars in fraudulent claims from the state and federal governments. Tim Walz's incompetence may have had something to do with this as well, but I asked the question back in December before the break, is he incompetent or is he complicit? Either way, he really is not fit to serve a third term. In a press release, Walz cited the heightened attention on the fraud allegations in Minnesota and said, quote, "But as I reflected on this moment with my family and my team over the holidays, I came to the conclusion that I can't give a political campaign my all. Every minute I spend defending my own political interests would be a minute I can't spend defending the people of Minnesota against the criminals who prey on our generosity and the cynics who prey on our differences." End quote. It's a nice way of saying that I got a phone call from the guys who, contribute to fund my campaign, and they've said I'm fired. That's how I'm reading this. Now, think about this. Tim Walz could have been the vice president of the United States at this point. Is it possible he was selected as Kamala Harris's running mate because Democratic operatives were aware of the money pipeline flowing from the federal government through Somali daycares and other Somali businesses that were taking money to do things that they weren't actually doing to fund Democratic political campaigns? And what kind of influence would that have purchased them in the White House? I think we should all be thankful that the Harris-Walz campaign was not successful. Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota, reportedly interested in running for governor. In fact, she registered a web domain for her gubernatorial campaign before Walz announced he was stepping aside. She has sharpened her comb and she's ready. If you know, you know. One of her former staff members reportedly a couple years ago said that she has a habit of taking a comb out of her purse, putting it in her mouth, and then running it through her hair. Anyway, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, who's, again, either incompetent or complicit given the scale of the fraud committed by the Somalis in Minnesota, said he is also interested in running for governor. Not only is Ellison a Muslim, but he reportedly accepted some $10,000 in campaign donations from a group called Feeding Our Future. This is a fraudulent charity by a group of mostly Somalis to steal money from a federal child nutrition program. In the meeting with the Somalis, Ellison told the fraudsters he was here to help and offered to intervene with state officials who were blocking their funding applications. And 9 days later, cha-ching, $10,000. The federal investigation into Feeding Our Future has led to 78 indictments and uncovered related Somali fraud in other welfare programs. Minnesota Nice is about to become Minnesota Viking. Item number 3 today, vaccines. This is an important story. The Trump administration announced Monday they're reducing the number of vaccines recommended for children in response to a recent order from President Trump. The CDC is moving forward with recommending only 8 vaccines for children. That is down from 14. Moving forward, CDC will stop broadly recommending vaccines against influenza, rotavirus, hepatitis A, and meningococcal disease. The CDC in last year had already narrowed recommendations on Hep B and COVID-19 vaccines. This is a good thing. Children are being over-vaccinated and being vaccinated against things that are not necessarily harmful, like the COVID vaccine. Item number 2 today, Social Security. After years of Congress kicking the can down the road, lawmakers may have to confront the reality that it is going to go broke before the end of the next 6-year Senate term. Recent projections have identified the year 2032 as the moment Social Security's reserves and incoming tax revenue won't be enough to pay full benefits. If they do nothing, and this is kind of a third rail when it comes to politics, that would trigger automatic benefit cuts. So this is a darned if you do, darned if you don't moment. Either they do something to raise taxes, cut benefits, or benefit cuts will be implemented automatically by 2032. The math is brutal. This is essentially a Ponzi scheme, and the program is about to run out of money. Congress last made major Social Security cuts about 43 years ago when they staved off insolvency by adopting tax increases and benefit cuts. This was intended to keep Social Security funded for the next 75 years. Well, again, that was only 43 years ago. Didn't quite make it, in part because of instead of reforming Social Security a year ago, this particular Congress, made Social Security less solvent by passing the so-called Social Security Fairness Act, which, again, more evidence that you can figure out what a bill does by assuming it's exactly the opposite of the title. It was signed into law a year ago yesterday by President Biden, which just sped up the slide of Social Security down that slippery slope towards insolvency. President Trump doesn't want to touch this either, which means this crisis is the iceberg on the horizon, and we in the United States, especially us boomers at the tail end of the baby boom, we're on the Titanic heading full steam ahead towards that iceberg. Coming up, more on Somalia, and this story is just, the jokes write themselves. And I will explain why you see me wearing T-shirts all the time these days. That's ahead on 5 and 10.
This is how we're going to raise a remnant, a body of Christ that's going to stand in the gap for these kids that are voiceless. These kids have no voice. They have no champion. We're going to change that. The book, Innocent Shattered, it points out the malevolent industries that are exploiting our children. It gets into how in the world, Alan, these kids can be coming up missing without a chain of custody. If you were to ask me, Joe Horn, with all the years that you've been working with children, and you've looked into the eyes of those that have been absolutely devastated, ravaged by abuse from malevolent people who have taken pleasure in the screams of terror exhaled, innocence completely stripped before it's even had a chance to find its calling. I believe that that is precisely why Lucifer has waged this war on children in particular, because if they never find why God put them here, he intercepts and snuffs out another warrior for the kingdom. Kids that have experienced this have experienced a lot of it at the malevolent hands of people that are evil. These are people that have given themselves over to Luciferian powers. These are people that take delight in the suffering of children. The average, based on the most intelligent aggregators of information that we have in the United States right now, place it at about 11 to 12 children per day from foster care alone, not the vast population of kids growing up in homes where they haven't been removed yet or coming up missing. No clue where they've gone, they're just gone. Many who will end up being classified as runaway. People feel stirred by it, they want to support you, but they themselves don't feel that they have what it takes to endure barrage after barrage of just the worst parts of humanity. It's in the book, Innocence Shattered. There is a ton of beautiful information, and people just aren't seeing it for the most part because they're not taking the chance. There is an appendix that goes on and on and on about some of the most beautiful ways that people can intervene. And I'm talking anybody, Alan. I don't care if you're grandmother on a pension. I don't care if you're a man that has billions of dollars in land. There is something rather more than just anecdotal praying once a week that you can throw at this. And it is available in this book. Again, a series of thought exercises that help guide the reader through the process of giving God your yes and a belief in how you really, really can make a difference. Wow. So yes, it's an ugly conversation that almost nobody wants to have, but it's the responsibility of the church to have it because we can't wait for the world to do it. The Holy Spirit can show up in a supernatural way and do things for these children that nothing else can do. It's a supernatural battle, and it is time for the church to say enough. Not one more kid in a dog cage, not one more kid out there lost, not one more child not being fed today. Not on my watch.
Item number one today, the nation known mostly for piracy and chaos, basically a failed state, is now the leader heading up the United Nations Security Council this month. This is not the result of any vote or anything. It's just Somalia is one of the members of the UN Security Council during this session, and the presidency rotates throughout the 12 members of the council every month. So, but wait, there's more. The ambassador to the United Nations from Somalia, Abukar Dahir Osman, is also the president of, you guessed it, a daycare company, Progressive Healthcare Services in Cincinnati, Ohio, that has been flagged by the Department of Health and Human Services for fraud. So you hear what I'm saying? The Somali CEO of a criminal Medicare enterprise in Ohio is now in charge of authorizing United Nations peacekeeping forces. You cannot make this stuff up. This is just more proof that the UN is itself a joke. The sad thing here is that Mr. Osman has diplomatic immunity. So I don't think the government can do anything about it, except perhaps shut down the business. This week on Skywatch TV, we talk about why we do what we do. In fact, I share on this week's episode why Sharon and I joined Skywatch TV going on 11 years ago and why we are still here. And this is our thank you to you, the supporters of Skywatch TV, and what your support means to the children who benefit from Whispering Ponies Ranch. You can watch the program right now at skywatchtv.com. Our video content is always at our website. You can also watch it over the air. Our broadcast schedule posted at skywatchtv.com/channels. Now, you can put it on your big screen by adding the Skywatch TV channel to your smart TV or set-top box, Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV. But if you got a smart TV, there's a good chance, like Google TV or Android TV, go to their app store, look for the Skywatch TV channel, install it, and all of our video content, including these daily news updates, the Donna Howell Show, and more. The new program, Life TV Now, with Joe Artis Horn hosting. All of that coming right to your big screen. Of course, we're also on the interwebs. You'll find us at YouTube, youtube.com/ at Skywatch Television. Please subscribe, share, click the bell for notifications, and hit the like button. Rumble.com/SkywatchTV. Or you can add the Skywatch TV channel, add the Skywatch TV app, that is, to your smartphone or tablet. It is free and available for iOS, Android, and Amazon Kindle Fire devices. And we've got links to those app stores at our website, skywatchtv.com/app. You've noticed probably over the last year that I've gone from wearing shirts and ties to open collar shirt with a jacket to wearing a jacket with a t-shirt, and now here in this room, just a t-shirt. And that is simply, I guess what I want to communicate is I'm not dressing casually because I take this responsibility in this particular daily program casually. It is simply that over the last year, if you've been watching the program, you've heard me comment on my health every now and again. And in fact, you're noticing that I'm laboring. My breath is labored a little bit. That's due to a what's called an elevated hemidiaphragm, dealing with a mild case of COPD, which is complicated by the fact that the diaphragm on the left side of my body is paralyzed. So I'm essentially working with one lung tied behind my back. But beyond that, I've got a neurological issue that is been diagnosed as CIDP, chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy, which simply means my immune system is attacking the nerves in my extremities, my feet and my hands. And it's affected my hands to the point where I'm losing fine motor skills, buttons, snaps, shoelaces, holding a pen, holding eating utensils. When I use a spoon these days, I've got to grab it like a little kid, like this, because doing it the other way that I used to, I don't have the finger strength anymore to do it. So the t-shirts are simply because I cannot manipulate the buttons. And it's just easier and simpler for me to put on a t-shirt than to ask Sharon to dress me, which God bless her, she would be willing to do. But again, I just want to assure you that just because I'm dressing casually is not an indication that I take this daily responsibility any less seriously than I did when we began this program almost 11 years ago. So you can follow us on the internet, of course. We are at YouTube at 5 in 10. If you would please subscribe, share, click that bell for notifications, hit the like button. On Telegram, do a search for the 5 in 10 channel, or follow us on X at 5_in_10. And thank you for watching as we keep watch. I'm Derek Gilbert. This is 5 in 10 from Skywatch TV.